presented by President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump, arrive in Biarritz, France on Saturday for the G7 summit. Andrew Harnik, app photo driving the day kicking off the G7 impromptu Trump-Macron meeting, via Gabby in Biarritz, France. President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron met for a last-minute lunch that White House wranglers didn't have any idea about. The traveling press pull motorcade was stopped as it was about to drive away when they were told the French wanted the press to stick around for an event. About 10 minutes later, they were told that Macron, who was waiting at the hotel Trump is staying at, and Trump would have lunch. Apps Zeke Miller, Darlene Supervielle and Jill Colvin in Biarritz, Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron Saturday across from each other at a small table for lunch outside the opulent Hotel du Palais before the official start of the summit. Hours earlier, Trump threatened anew to place tariffs on French wine imports to the U.S. over France's digital services tax, prompted a European leader to promise European Union action if the U.S. followed through. Macron called for an end to the trade wars he said are taking hold everywhere. Macron, the summit host, said two were discussing a lot of crisis around the world, including Libya, Iran and Russia, as well as trade policy and climate change. Add more from Gabby, who is the White House traveling puller today. POTUS spoke briefly at the conclusion of Macron's remarks. He said he and his French counterpart actually have a lot in common, and have been friends a long time. We all remember the Eiffel Tower dinner and that was a very good beginning, POTUS said. Once in a while we go at it just a little bit, not very much, everybody's getting along. I think we will accomplish a lot this weekend. Not everybody was happy that Macron ambushed Trump. A senior administration official called Gabby afterward and accused Macron of playing to his domestic audience by highlighting topics such as climate change and gender equality in both the lead-up to the G7 and again at his lunch with Trump. It's our view that with France trying to drive these other issues outside of global economics, national security and trade, they're trying to fracture the G7, the official said. Spotted Trump's entourage, Secretary Steven Mnuchin, National Security Advisor John Bolton, Jared Kushner and Stephanie Grisham. The G7 step back nights. Peter Baker in Biarritz. President Trump has again tossed out the economic and political playbook that guided other occupants of the Oval Office for generations as the United States dominated the flow of goods and services from across the world. In the space of a few hours, he declared that his own central bank chief was an enemy, claimed sweeping powers not explicitly envisioned by the Constitution to order American businesses to leave China, and, when stock markets predictably tumbled, made a joke of it. Mr. Trump's wild and unscripted pronouncements on Friday renewed questions about his stewardship of the world's largest economy, even as he escalated a trade war with China before heading to France for a high-profile summit with the leaders of many of the world's other major industrial powers. Even some of his own aides and allies were alarmed by his behavior, seeing it as the flailing of a president increasingly anxious over the dark clouds some have detected hovering over an economy that until now has been the strongest selling point for his administration. They privately expressed concern that he was hurting the economy and was doing lasting damage to his own prospects for re-election. NYT Politico Europe, 5 storms, and a jungle fire that could wreck Macron's beachfront G7, Trump trade wars get cold reception. WAPO's Michael Birnbaum and Damien Panetta in Biarritz. European Council President Donald Tusk on Saturday said escalating trade tensions between President Trump and other world leaders risk throwing the world into recession, bemoaning senseless disputes that had ripped countries apart. This may be the last moment to restore our political community, he told reporters at the beginning of the Group of 7 summit here. Trade wars will lead to recession while trade deals will boost the economy, he said. WAPO. A message from Business Roundtable. Business Roundtable's new statement on the purpose of a corporation is signed by 181 CEOs who commit to lead their companies for the benefit of all stakeholders, customers, employees, suppliers, communities and shareholders. Learn how US CEOs are leading at www.brt.org/ourcommitment. Trump on China, at Real Donald Trump at 11:58 p.m. For all of the fake news reporters that don't have a clue as to what the law is relative to presidential powers, China, etc., try looking at the Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977. Case closed. But. Trump hereby orders U.S. business out of China. Can he do that? By WAPO's Gene Whelan, Abha Bhattarai and Red Albergotti, Trump does not have the authority to duly order companies to leave China, according to Jennifer Hillman, a Georgetown University law professor and trade expert at the Council on Foreign Relations. But under the law he cited, Trump can prevent future transfers of funds to China, she said. First, he would have to make a lawful declaration that a national emergency exists, she said. Congress could terminate the declaration if it wishes, she said. Moreover, even if all this happened, it would not provide authority over all of the U.S. investments that have already been made in China, Hillman said. WAPO. And just to clear things up about his chosen one remark, Trump told reporters outside the White House as he left for the G7, it was sarcasm. It was joking. We were all smiling. And the question like that is just fake news. You're just a faker. Good Saturday morning. Back on the home front, the leading 2020 German Marx candidate, Mark Caputo, invoking RFK and MLK, Biden asks, what if Obama were assassinated? The strange question came just days after Biden, known for his verbal flubs and off-message gaffes, mistakenly said the two men had been assassinated in the 1970s instead of 1968. Biden brought up the question of Obama as part of a discussion about what causes young people to become politically involved. He said it was the assassinations, but that young people today are being motivated to vote against President Donald Trump. Unless I'm mistaken, Donald Trump did for your generation what the loss of two of my heroes did for mine, he told the students, adding, what they did was make you realize, my God, we're in trouble. POLITICO future of the GOP, Haley-Pence rivalry heats up as GOP weighs post-Trump future, by Alex Eisenstadt, when top Republicans convened at the St. Regis Resort in Aspen, Colo. Last month for an exclusive donor retreat, several attendees said there was palpable tension in the room as the gathering's two headliners prepared to speak, Vice President Mike Pence and former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley. The assembled group of governors, high-dollar donors, and operatives were well aware that the two have big ambitions. To some it seemed as if Pence and Haley, who spoke on back-to-back days, were vying for their attention. Some in the audience found themselves pausing and comparing the two speeches and buzzed they were getting a sneak preview of a 2024 Republican primary. Others recalled something peculiar. Neither Pence nor Haley acknowledged each other in their presentations, even though they gave shout-outs to others attending the retreat, at a time when Republicans are starting to contemplate what their party will look like after Donald Trump leaves office. A rivalry has developed between the two politicians who cut markedly different profiles, and signs of strain are bubbling to the surface. Pence and Haley aren't openly sniping. Publicly, both sides maintain there's nothing but mutual respect between them. But interviews with nearly 24 top Republicans revealed that the opposing camps are closely tracking each other's moves, and remain deeply suspicious of one another. Politico. A message from Business Roundtable. Business Roundtable has redefined the purpose of a corporation to promote an economy that serves all Americans. Read the updated commitment at www.brt.org/ourcommitment 2020. Watch the big picture on foreign policy. Democrats can't just unwind Trump's foreign policy, by Neil Tusi. Democrats running to replace Donald Trump are vowing to wipe away much of the president's foreign policy legacy. It might already be too late. Through executive orders, regulatory changes, political maneuvers and sometimes mere neglect, Trump has overseen major, possibly permanent, shifts in U.S. foreign policy that will be on full display this weekend in France as the president meets with other world leaders at the Group of Seven summit, thanks to Trump. Current and former officials say, Palestinians may never get a state of their own. Iran may shun diplomacy with Washington for the foreseeable future, and U.S. allies may forever be reluctant to trust their American counterparts. Relations with China, the effects of climate change and ending nuclear proliferation are among other challenges a future president may find harder to tackle in a post-Trump world. POLITICO news dump. Justice Department cancels news briefings service after sending white nationalist link. By Matthew Choi. Playbook reads photo du jour. President Donald Trump left sits with French President Emmanuel Macron for lunch at the Hotel du Palais in Biarritz, France on Saturday. Ludovic Marin, Paul Virat. The latest in Hong Kong, apps Kelvin Chan. Hong Kong police and protesters clash, ending violence lull. Hong Kong protesters threw bricks and gasoline bombs at police, who responded with tear gas, as chaotic scenes returned to the summer-long anti-government protests on Saturday for the first time in nearly 2 weeks. Hundreds of black-clad protesters armed with bamboo poles and baseball bats fought with police officers wielding batons on a main road following a march against smart lampposts that was sparked by surveillance fears. The chaotic scenes unfolded outside a police station and a nearby shopping mall as officers in riot gear faced off with protesters who set up makeshift street barricades. The violence interrupted nearly 2 weeks of calm in Hong Kong, which has been gripped by a turbulent pro-democracy movement since June. Police fired tear gas to disperse the crowd after repeated warnings went futile, the government said in a statement. By early evening, most of the protesters had dispersed. APNAHALTOOSI. 2 years later, U.S. says Rohingya persecutors being held accountable, 2 years after Myanmar's military waged a deadly crackdown on minority Rohingya Muslims, U.S. officials say the Trump administration is holding the perpetrators accountable. Through sanctions and other pressure, Myanmar's powerful military leaders are feeling the sting of U.S. anger over the atrocities in 2017, the officials argue. But the U.S.
has calibrated its reaction to avoid a serious rollback in democratic progress in the Southeast Asian country of Myanmar, also known as Burma, while maintaining political influence there in the face of competition from China. Politico Playbook newsletter. Sign up today to receive the.
You can unsubscribe at any time. Daniel Lippman, Trump's Greenland gambit finds allies inside government. Mediawatch, Mississippi professor, who went to Georgetown Prep with Brett Kavanaugh, sues HuffPost. By the Clarion Ledger's Jimmy Gates, Derek Evans lawsuit was filed Wednesday in U.S. District Court in Gulfport against HuffPost and its former journalist, Ashley Feinberg. The lawsuit said HuffPost and Feinberg repeatedly defamed Evans and friend Douglas Kennedy to a nationwide audience on multiple occasions in September 2018 by falsely asserting that they helped arrange the purchase and delivery of cocaine at Georgetown Prep that resulted in the April 1984 death of David Kennedy, Douglas' brother and the son of the late U.S. Attorney General and Senator Robert F. Kennedy. The lawsuit said HuffPost ran a correction, but the correction also contained false information. HuffPost eventually changed the story, removing any reference to Evans and the Kennedy brothers. Clarion Ledger, WAPO's Eric Wemple on the case. The suit. Steve Levine is leaving Axios, where he's been future editor, to join a new business publication launching soon at Medium as editor-at-large. Michael Rothfeld will join the NYT's Metro Investigations team. He currently is an investigative reporter at the WSJ, where he led the team that won a Pulitzer this year for reporting on Trump and Michael Cohen's hush money payments to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Michelle Hackman is now covering immigration policy and enforcement for the WSJ. She previously reported on education policy. Clicker, the nation's cartoonists on the Week in Politics, edited by Matt Worker. 12 Keepers. A message from Business Roundtable. Business Roundtable CEOs share a fundamental commitment to providing value to all stakeholders. Learn more at www.brt.org/ourcommitment. Great Weekend Reads, curated by Daniel Lippman. At De Lippman, How Amazon and Silicon Valley Seduced the Pentagon, by ProPublica's James Bandler, Anjali Choi and Doris Burke. Tech moguls like Jeff Bezos and Eric Schmidt have gotten unprecedented access to the Pentagon. And one whistleblower who raised flags has paid the price. ProPublica, The Pre-College Racket, by Ann Kim in Washington Monthly. Elite universities are making millions off summer programs for teens. What are they really selling? Washington Monthly, Battle of the Bubbles, by Laurinetta and Craig Giamona in Bloomberg Business Week. The early darling of fizzy water is losing ground to big soda, and shareholders are questioning its management. Bloomberg Business Week. Inside the Twisted, Worldwide Hunt for a $7 million Stolen Car, by Staten Bonn in Esquire, per Longreads.com's description. The T150, chassis number 90108, however, now holds another distinction: it was stolen in one of the boldest automobile heists in history. In fact, one of the most brazen and spectacular heists of any kind at all. And Joe Ford, a PI from Fort Lauderdale nursing a Corona who has to get home to walk his girlfriend's teacup poodle after she goes to work, is working his ass off to get it back. Esquire, when W.E.B. Du Bois made a laughingstock of a white supremacist, by The New Yorker's Ian Frazier. Why the Jim Crow-era debate between the African-American leader and a ridiculous, Nazi-loving racist isn't as famous as Lincoln Douglas. New Yorker, Burning Down the House, by Alan Weissman in the NY. Review of books. Reviewing The Uninhabitable Earth, Life After Warming, by David Wallace Wells. Falter, Has the Human Game Begun to Play Itself Out, by Bill McKibben, for thebrowser.com's description. Wallace Wells aims to scare the hell out of us. We're overshooting all targets for containing global warming. There are no remaining remedies. We are toast. Bill McKibben is a touch more sanguine. He thinks that worldwide non-violent protests, coupled with massive expansion of solar energy, might just save the day. NYRB. Wallace Wells, $19.54 on Amazon. McKibben, $15.98 on Amazon. Did Venus Williams ever get her due? By Elizabeth Vial in the NYT Magazine. How the first Williams sister changed the course of women's tennis. NYT Magazine. Caviar was a free bar snack, by Mark Kurlansky and Delancey Place, for thebrowser.com's description. In the early 1800s, American rivers churned with sturgeon and bars offered free caviar alongside salted nuts as a courtesy snack. In Russia, caviar was cheaper than sauerkraut. The price of caviar began rising in the late 1800s as overfishing and industrial pollution destroyed sturgeon populations worldwide. Price differences between the main varieties of caviar, beluga, ossitra, sevruga, reflect rarity, not quality. Giant beluga sturgeon are the hardest to find, so their caviar is the most expensive. Delancey Place, the Federal Prisoner Transit System, aka diesel therapy, is held by Michael Rothenberg in the Marshall Project. On the way to what turned out to be South Dakota, an inmate said he needed to use the bathroom. Tough shit, said the marshal. You had your chance. Yo, seriously, I am going to piss myself if I don't go. If you piss yourself on my plane, I'm gonna tase you. Well, if you tase me, I'm gonna piss myself. Classic Catch-22. The inmate pissed himself. Then he was tased. The Marshall Project, http://browser.com, a party room in a prison cell, by Saul Austerlitz in Vulture. Inside the Friends Writers' Room, Vulture, How the Unchecked Power of Judges is Hurting Poor Texans, by Nina Satia for the Texas Tribune and Texas Monthly's September issue. Can't afford a lawyer? Don't expect justice. Texas Monthly, Chasing Waves on Ireland's Wild Atlantic Way, by Biddle Duke in the NYT Magazine. There was surf somewhere from County Kerry to County Donegal, if only they could find it. NYT Magazine. PLAYBOOKERS send tips to Eli Oken and Garrett Ross at Politico Playbook at Politico.com. Spotted, Chris Cuomo and Anthony and Deidre Scaramucci in the Grindstone Coffee Shop in Sag Harbor, NY in memoriam. George Mitrovich, who passed away in July, will be honored at memorial service in San Diego this morning. Mitrovich was a well-known Democrat, who founded the City Club of San Diego, the Denver Forum, the Great Washington, D.C. Writers Series and the Great Fenway Park Writers Series. Kathleen Kennedy, John Hickenlooper, Richard Lamb and his brother Dan Mitrovich are among those scheduled to speak. Former Vice President Joe Biden sent along remarks to be read at the memorial. The San Diego Padres and the Boston Red Sox will both pay tribute to him later this summer. San Diego Tribune Obert, Washington Post article from 1979 on dining out with George Mitrovich transitions. Marcus Jadot will be VP of Federal Government Relations at United Technologies. He previously was VP of Public Affairs at AR and is an Obama Commerce Department and NASCAR alum. The American Enterprise Institute announced several scholars in its new Social, Cultural, and Constitutional Studies Research Division: Adam White and Matthew Continetti full-time, and Diana Schaub, Greg Wiener, Ross Douthat, Michael Brendan Doherty and J.D. Vance part-time. The announcement: Welcome to the World, Beth Schernbach, Comms Director for Rep. Peter DeFazio, Dior, and Stephen Keene, VP of Congressional Relations for the Independent Community Bankers of America, on Thursday welcomed Nathaniel Nate Paul Keene. Birthdays: Senator Joe Manchin, DW, VA, is 72, Senator Todd Young, RIND, is 47, Representative Clay Higgins, ALA, is 58. Mike Huckabee is 64, Nick Denton is 53. CNN's David Gregory. Major Garrett, Chief Washington Correspondent for CBS, host of The Takeout podcast and the Pride of the University of Missouri, is 57. T. Ben Chang, Gallius Layan, Comms Director for Steve Bullock's campaign. Todd Harris, partner at Something Else Strategies, former Sen. Bob Corker, R. Tennessee, is 67. Former Senator Max Cleland, D-Gar, is 77. T. Steve Leeds, former Rep. John Culberson, R. Texas, is 63. Former Rep. Steve Pierce, RNM, is 72. Ricky Seidman, Senior Principal at TSD Communications. T. John Harbour, James Gordon Meek, T. Tim Berger, Andrew Romanoff is 53. Harvard President Lawrence Bacow is 68. David Molina, Sahar Wali of SEIU. Betsy Wright Hawkins, Saywood Darby, EIC of The Atavist magazine. Matt McDonald, Managing Editor of Spectator USA, is 28. TS Dominic Green and Freddie Gray. Natalie Strom, Comms Director for SEC Chairman Jay Clayton. T. Fiancé Michael Short. Adam Gopnik is 63. Emily Cherniuk, Founder and Executive Director of New Politics. T. Theresa Vilmain, Finnish President Sauli Niinisto is 71. Michael Moynihan, correspondent for HBO's Vice News Tonight, is 45. Brooke Barker, Mary Hood, Brendan Cheney, Elizabeth Cutler of CNA, Gio Saba, Pam Coulter, Errol Louie, Brad Bynum, Communications Senior Advisor at the Arizona Democratic Party, Abby McDonough. Politico Europe's Nadia Shabain-Deviron, Aaron Houston, political reporter for Marijuana Moment, J.B. Britton, Eric Bridges, Morgan Buckley, Mel Karmazin is 76. Justin Roth, Megan Shepard, Zach Zampella, Carissa Gillespie, James Manasco, Dabney Hegg, Merrick Gillard, Brandon Swindler, Harry Rhodes Jr., Lisa Reed, Courtney Shelgren, Daniel Finnegan is 57. Trey Barnes, Jane Brown. The shows, by Matt Macalak, filing from Miami Beach, Fla, Fox News Sunday, Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, Sen. Amy Klobuchar, D. Min. Panel: Carl Rove, Julie Pace, Emily Compagno and Juan Williams. Power Player of the Week segment with author Robert Caro. Working, CNN's State of the Union. White House National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow, Sen. Bernie Sanders, IVT. Cindy McCain. Panel: Jennifer Granholm, Rick Santorum, Karen Finney and Bill Kristol. Substitute anchor, Brianna Kailas, NBC's Meet the Press, Pete Buttigieg. Panel, Eugene Robinson, Kristen Soltis Anderson, Brett Stevens and Betsy Woodruff. ABC's This Week, former Representative Joe Walsh, IL, Cindy McCain. Panel, Rahm Emanuel, Chris Christie, Matthew Dowd and Yvette Simpson. CBS, Face the Nation, Sen. Lindsey Graham, RSC, National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow, Senator Amy Klobuchar, D. Min, Josh Bolton, Anthony Salvanto. Panel, Michael Graham, Ann Gearan and Joshua Johnson. Fox News, Sunday Morning Futures, Acting ICE Director Mark Morgan, Rep. Ro Khanna, D. Kaloff, Jason Chaffetz, Carter Page. Fox News, Media Buzz, Emily Jashinsky, Susan Ferricchio, Mo Ellerby, Maria Bartiromo, Gail Trotter, Gene Zino, Kat Timpf. CNN's Inside Politics. Panel, Jonathan Martin, Shauna Thomas, Phil Mattingly and Vivian Salama. Substitute anchor, Nia Malika Henderson. CNN's Fareed Zakaria. GPS. Panel, David Sanger and Jim Sciutto. Parag Khanna, Amanda Little, Steve Hank and Richard Con Henry. CNN's Reliable Sources, Daniel Dale, April Ryan, Ken Ward Jr. Irin Carmen, Diane Foley and Art Sotloff. Univision's Al Punto, Albert Martinez, Javier Bardem, Rep. Veronica Escobar, D. Texas, Evelyn Hernandez, Paulina Chavira, C-SPAN, The Communicators, Kate Fazzini, Newsmakers, Senate Leadership Fund President and CEO Stephen Law, questioned by the Washington Examiner's Susan Ferricchio and AP's Lisa Mascaro, Q. Mark Sanford, RSC, Marianne Williamson, Dan McCready, Exo Chital Hinojosa, Paul Rossoli, Eamon Mohialden, Shauna Thomas, Katty Kay, Kimberly Atkins, Evelyn Farkas, Dave Wasserman, Neera Tanden, John Harwood, Ali Vitali, Leanne Caldwell. Washington Times, Mac on Politics, weekly politics podcast with Matt Mackowiak. Download on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify or Stitcher, or listen at mackinpoliticspodcast.com. Author and Manhattan Institute Fellow Heather MacDonald. A message from Business Roundtable. Americans deserve an economy that allows each person to succeed through hard work and creativity and to lead a life of meaning and dignity. Business Roundtable CEOs believe the free market system is the best means of generating good jobs, a strong and sustainable economy, innovation, a healthy environment and economic opportunity for all. Businesses play a vital role in the economy by creating jobs, fostering innovation and providing essential goods and services. While each individual company serves its own corporate purpose, CEOs share a fundamental commitment to all stakeholders. Read the updated statement on the purpose of a corporation, www.brt.org/our commitment. View archives. This article tagged under, Let's Block Ads. Why?